Thank you all for coming today. Courage, tenacity, resilience, and self-awareness for individuals and organizations are vital to success. These traits allow us to build strong and powerful connections with other people and other entities. And connection, well, that's why we're all here today. It's what gives us purpose and meaning to our lives. So today, to the Honorable Andrew J. Ginther, Mayor of Columbus, Council President Shannon G. Hardin, Councilmember Ms. Shayla Favor, esteemed guests, city employees, and fellow community leaders, good afternoon. I'm Joy Reyes, the CEO for Columbus Literacy Council, CLC Works, and I'm honored to welcome each and every one of you to our Far East location, CLC Chantry. CLC is proud to be a local nonprofit serving a global population. This population has elected Columbus, Ohio, to become their new home. Whether they are here as employees, students, asylees, refugees, it doesn't matter. They are all our neighbors. And as a welcoming city, Columbus has developed a culturally rich and diverse population of individuals from around the globe. That creates a vast array of community connections. And now more than ever, our community is understanding the importance of human connection. The connections we form with our neighbors, those allow us to grow, and as we grow, we become stronger and more connected. And no connection is stronger than those that we build across cultures and languages, across worldviews and values, the things that touch our lives along the way. Over the past 52 years, CLC has been a steady presence in our community with a focus on excellence, coordinated care, equity, and relationship-based case management. CLC seeks to engage, empower, educate, and elevate those that we serve. CLC is focused on creating a better Columbus, and we have been actively working toward that goal through our community-focused programs and services. Creating the change we want to see in our community does take time. We must continue to be resilient in service to achieve equitable results. 5 years ago, I met a family from Somalia, a father, 2 daughters, and a son. They were refugees and had relocated to Columbus, Ohio to pursue the American dream. The family connected with CLC and began receiving English language services. Soon, they were studying for citizenship, connecting through our young adult workforce and life coaching program, AMP, and they were able to obtain work experience. In particular, Kifa, she obtained a work experience in the nursing-related field. And I'm proud to say that this past May, Kifa graduated from Hardin University with her Bachelor of Science in Nursing. Her sister, Kunkuran, last week at our federal courthouse, she received her citizenship. She's currently studying at Hardin University. And their younger brother, Abdi Kafi, he graduated from high school in May. He joined the National Guard, is currently in boot camp, and through the program that they have, he will be attending the University of Cincinnati in the fall as an engineering major. Thankfully, CLC maintained a strong connection with this family over the last 5 years. Because during the COVID crisis, during the pandemic, the family needed housing stabilization services, and CLC was there for them. The stabilization services allowed the family to continue on the trajectory of success, the results of which I've just shared. Through this Far East location, CLC Works is able to partner directly with individuals and area services to provide workforce development services, from resumes to GED to ESOL to industry-recognized credentials, career path designs, and job placements. CLC Works is proud to be a partner and resource to our neighbors. The City of Columbus has been a strong partner for CLC as well. And that partnership, during the face of unprecedented public health emergency, did not waver. The City of Columbus readily engaged in conversations and provided essential support to many of the nonprofit human service organizations in Columbus. Over the last 2 years, the city has faced disruption and stress in unimaginable ways, but we are resilient. We have come out the other side with stronger connections and a greater sense of community purpose. The funding through Elevate is timely and vital for our sector. For CLC, this funding will allow us to continue to fulfill our mission and to grow our organizational capacity. Elevate allows us to focus on strengthening and furthering our work in continuing to build the connections within our community. Thank you so much for your investment. Now, if you would please join me in welcoming our esteemed mayor, the Honorable Andrew J. Ginther.
Thank you so much, Joy, and to Council President Hardin, Councilmember Favor, all of Council, to Dustin Mckee and Make a Day Foundation. We're just so grateful for each and every one of you joining us here today. It is a great day in the city of Columbus, and grateful for each and every one of you and all of your partnership. It's exciting today to recognize and to celebrate our Elevate grant recipients and acknowledge all of the work these folks do for our city. The Elevate program is dedicating to helping human service agencies focus on infant vitality, homelessness, and housing stability for immigrants and refugees. That's why I'm happy to announce that we will allocate $5 million from the American Rescue Plan funds to 48 Columbus nonprofits. Here in Columbus, we believe every resident deserves to be stably housed, and we believe that every baby deserves to reach his or her first birthday and beyond. But data shows that our infant mortality and homelessness rates remain stubbornly high. The fallout from this global pandemic has made that work even more challenging than it was before. But this is Columbus. And when we come together and decide where we're going to make strategic and aligned investments, and each of us is going to step up to do our part, we know we can stem that tide. We believe that Columbus's future is big enough and bright enough for everyone, whether or not you were born here in 1975 like me, or you've been here just a few days or weeks. This is a thriving and growing city, a 21st century city, that it can only become the opportunity city of America if we first become America's equal opportunity city. And that's what Elevate is all about. These statistics are daunting, but with the folks in this room, I know we can make a difference. Between January and December 2021, 60 infant deaths were reported in Columbus. The infant mortality rate for non-Hispanic Black infants was almost 3 times greater than during that same time for non-Hispanic white infants. From 2020 in July to June of 2021, shelters in our region served more than 6,600 people, including nearly 1,200 children. 62% of the individuals that took advantage of the emergency shelter system during the pandemic were either Black or Hispanic. This is simply unacceptable, which is why today's funding to nonprofit agencies is so important. The reality is this: the lingering economic fallout of the pandemic disproportionately impacts our Black and brown neighbors. And this is why the Recovery and Resiliency recommendations and the committee's work led by Christy Angel of the YWCA was so important. And it's why these investments in Elevate is completely aligned with that group's recommendations. We also need to take into account housing stability for immigrants and refugees. We've worked hard to make Columbus the place residents and businesses want to be. We owe it to our new American neighbors to guarantee that they enjoy all the benefits of being a part of our family here in Columbus. I'm committed to equitable opportunities for every resident of Columbus, and we won't reach our full potential until every family in every neighborhood is sharing in our community's success. And that particularly is important to our most vulnerable residents, to make sure they have what they need to thrive. The Elevate funding is just one of the ways we're addressing infant vitality, homelessness, and housing stability for our residents. And we're committed to ongoing refinement, and will do what needs to be done to maximize our collective impact. Together, we will continue to press forward while planning for additional investments and partnerships that will ensure a better life and a brighter future for every resident in Columbus. We are so excited to be here with you today to announce this Elevate funding, and cannot wait to work with you in the days, months, and years ahead as we grow the winner's circle here in Columbus. We want to become the largest middle class of any city our size in the country, and the nation's capital for upward mobility. Elevate is going to help us do that. And Elevate and all of you are a critically important part of that effort for us to realize that vision. But mayors can propose whatever they want, but if they don't have a legislative partnership and legislators who fund it, all it is proposals. So I'm going to introduce our chief funder for Elevate and so many other council and city priorities. Please welcome Council President Shannon Hardin.
It certainly is good to be here with everyone today. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to Joy, to my colleague, Councilmember Favor, to our friend Dustin, and to all of you that are gathered here today. Our job really today is simple. It's one, to say thank you. My talking points and the Mayor and Councilmember Favor, we're all talking about really the life that we all had to live over the last 2 years, going through a pandemic and seeing the outcome, seeing what that meant to our community. And even though our job was one to help keep folks safe, it was to fund you guys to do the work that you did. You were on the cutting edge, you were on the front edge of this pandemic. And as important it is to fund programming, if you don't have the capacity, if you don't have the support of the organizations to do the work, you can't do it. And so on behalf of a grateful city, on behalf of our council, we say thank you for the work that you've already done thus far, and we want to continue to be a good partner with you. But today we're here to talk about the Elevate grants and what they will mean for our community. And thinking back during our pandemic, human service organizations stepped up in many different ways, from delivering the PPE to our clients to serving as information hubs to our residents. You guys encourage folks to mask up and get vaccinated. And while our vaccinations have reduced the threat of COVID, many human service organizations continue to feel increased demand. I was with Matt Habash a couple weeks ago, CEO of the food bank, and before we could do our normal pleasantries that you do at these events, he whipped out his phone and he said, "Shannon, look at this." It was a picture of the warehouse that many of us have been to. And you usually see the food stacked up on both sides of you. It was 85% empty. Their capacity now is down to 15%. The pandemic, the inflation, the economy is having a real impact on our residents and on our organizations that serve. Stopped me in our track. So in the midst of this economic pressure and increased demand, nonprofits want to not just serve our community members, but do so more efficiently. Nonprofits want to create better experiences for residents and reduce redundancies. That's why I'm excited that we get to vote tonight on these Elevate grants at Council. These dollars will support capacity building and the day-to-day operations at organizations focused on infant vitality, on reducing the unsheltered homelessness in our community, and housing stability for immigrants and refugees. As the Mayor said, these grants align with the spirit of the recommendations number 14 and 15 from the Recovery and Resiliency Committee report. When we're thinking about homelessness and when we're thinking about housing stability for immigrants and refugees, when we're thinking about infant vitality, we cannot expect private markets to address these concerns in a vacuum. It takes public, private, and nonprofit partners all working together to solve these big issues. But like the mayor said, if there's any community, if there's any city that can get these things done, put a dent in them, it's Columbus, because we know how to do this. Throughout the pandemic, I was blessed as a council president to have amazing colleagues that work very closely with everybody in the room, a lot of these organizations. Good thing we're looking around, nobody in here is a stranger, because we saw you a lot, mostly on Zooms over the last 2 years, but we saw you a lot and heard from you and saw the impact. Our chief, if I'm the chief funder, the person who is the chief support to our human service agencies would be our Health and Human Service Chair, Councilmember Favor. Would you please welcome her?
I didn't know where Council President Hardin was getting ready to go with that. I could be the chief of a lot of things if he lets me. But I do have the honor of serving as the chair of City Council's Health and Human Services Committee. But I want to start out today with a simple but very much deserved thank you to our human service organizations. I took over as the chair of Health and Human Service Committee back in January of this year, and in just 7 short months, I have been in awe of all of our human service organizations. The breadth of the services that you provide, the passion and the heart that you bring to the work, and the commitment to serving the residents in our community is incomparable, and I sincerely thank you all. Today we gather about 2 years since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, where we continue to battle COVID-19 variants, an economic downturn, a housing crisis, and an irresponsible Supreme Court decision. It is evident that today we have an even greater responsibility to not only stabilize families, but ensure that our resources are invested back into the community that will promote health, safety, and a thriving future for all Columbus residents. I am proud that our city has prioritized strengthening families by investing $5 million of the City of Columbus's ARPA funds to increase the organizational capacity of our nonprofit organizations tackling homelessness, infant mortality rates, and increasing housing stability for immigrant and refugee households. And while these focus areas, housing, homelessness, and infant mortality, are critical to ensuring a prosperous future for all Columbus families, it's incredibly important to acknowledge the racial disparities that continue to exist. I want to thank Mayor Ginther for laying the foundation for the facts that I'm going to reiterate once again, because we cannot disassociate ourselves. These aren't just talking points. This is very much the reality of many of our Columbus families. Mayor Ginther mentioned the Recovery and Resiliency Committee report. The committee was composed of community, small business, nonprofit, corporate, and human service leaders. And they were tasked with the ability to identify recommendations that were focused on equity and long-term resiliency. In their final report, housing was indicated as the most critical need to stabilize communities in crisis. I also chair the Housing Committee, and you cannot deny the link between the Housing Committee and the Health and Human Services Committee. The report showed that approximately 54,000 low and moderate income households in Franklin County paid more than half of their income to housing costs. And among those households, 55% of them were Black households, a major racial disparity since the overall population of Franklin County Black residents is just 24%. And these numbers were before the pandemic. Infant mortality rates, which is also inextricably linked to housing, remains alarmingly high for Black babies in Franklin County. In the fourth quarter of 2021, 52% of Black babies accounted for infant deaths. Yet Black babies only accounted for 33% of births in Franklin County. The disparate racial impact is also reflected in Franklin County's homeless population. In Franklin County, 24% of these residents were Black. However, 66% of the county's homeless population is Black. We also know that many factors prevent equitable access to safe and affordable housing for immigrant and refugee communities. The reality is that the pandemic has and will continue to have a major impact on the health and the well-being of many vulnerable groups in our city. Women, people of color, and minorities have been mostly affected. The future of our city depends on ensuring that all residents have the means and the opportunity to thrive in safe and stable environments. If we are going to accomplish Mayor Ginther's dream, that means that we must continue to be intentional with our funding and our support. The Elevate funding will allow us to support our partners, to serve the most vulnerable among us, and will have an incalculable impact on our city. Organizations such as the Columbus Diaper Bank, Dress for Success, Make a Day Foundation, to name only a few, have continued to support residents throughout the pandemic and have taken extra steps to help families get back on their feet by preventing evictions and by providing basic necessities and health care at no cost. I have seen firsthand just how effective and life-changing the resources provided through human service grants have been for our residents. It is so much more than money. It's education, it's access to experts, free health care, quality food, and so much more. However, I have also seen the impact of the pandemic and how it has wreaked havoc on our human service providers. Many are working on exhausted resources. They are understaffed. They are struggling to meet the demand that the pandemic has created. The Elevate grant dollars are a necessary and important step in our city. And I want to extend my deepest appreciation and gratitude to the mayor, to the Department of Development, Director Stevens, for prioritizing these ARPA dollars to provide support to our human service organizations. However, if these last few years tell us anything, it is that the work is far from finished. This year, with the help of federal ARPA dollars, the city was able to double our investment into our human service organizations from $5 million to $10 million. While this is a tremendous step in the right direction, we must continue to increase and distribute funding and strengthen these investments in our community. Because we know that our federal funds will be gone soon, and we cannot wait until those funds are exhausted, and we cannot rely on any more federal funding. We must act quickly to create a long-term plan to allocate more dollars and invest more into our human service organizations. The first step towards building healthy communities is to prioritize equitable investments in areas with the greatest need. I look forward to continuing to working with the mayor, community partners, and other leaders in our city to maximize our investment in our community. Finally, I want to thank all of the human service organizations across the city for your resiliency. If you are here today, which I imagine is everyone in the room except for CTV, please stand so that we can give you a round of applause. Oftentimes, we don't see you in front of the cameras, and you all are the reason why we are blessed with the honor to be up here to say thank you. So thank you to you, the leaders, but more importantly, to the folks that helped to grease the wheel, that helped to be on the ground, boots on the ground, ensuring that our residents have everything that they need to continue to thrive in the city of Columbus. And with that, it is my honor to turn it over to Mr. Dustin Mckee, Executive Director of Make a Day Foundation.
It's just an honor to be here today. I want to thank our mayor, President Hardin, Councilmember Favor, and Councilmember Dorans, and all of council for their support in this once-in-a-lifetime capacity-building opportunity for our health and human services agencies. I also want to give a special shout-out to Mayor Ginther and Earlham College for being a fellow Quaker. Go Quakers! You probably don't know who that is. I'm the executive director of the Mckee Foundation, and we are a small nonprofit that is here to be nimble, to meet the needs that can't be met in our resource-rich environment here in Franklin County. We braid together resources to meet the needs of folks that aren't being met yet with our existing system. It was started by three cousins who had an idea to take radical hospitality, cosmetology, and a food truck to create intentional community in our great city of Columbus. It started with hamburgers and haircuts and human beings sitting with one another, getting to know each other, and meeting people where they are. You know, we talk a lot about health and human services, but we know that most of our health outcomes, about 80% of them, are determined by something other than who your doctor is. They're determined by things called the social determinants of health. I've been in the social services system as a policy advocate and as a social worker for about 20 years now. And unsheltered homelessness is about one of the most complex issues that I've ever encountered. There are many complex issues, obviously, and we're addressing them also with our Elevate grant. But unsheltered homelessness is something that you have the stars align in a really negative way to put people on the streets and have them unsheltered. And so there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Our large systems struggle to meet people where they are in our communities, and they do a great job when those resources are braided together in a way that meets the person exactly where they are in their journey. We have to be creative, and that's why it's so important to have these kinds of capacity-building grant opportunities, because when we're creative, we can meet those complex needs in a better way. You know, the Mckee Foundation started out with hamburgers and haircuts and braids together now health, wellness, behavioral health, housing, smart justice opportunities to remove those barriers where folks are. I just want to give a special shout out to the folks who are our partners, because without them, we would just be going back to doing hamburgers and haircuts. Primary One Health, who can meet the needs of health, behavioral health, dental, vision, specialty health care, Molina Healthcare of Ohio, Mount Carmel Street Outreach, Southeast Behavioral Health Services and REACT team, Zach Klein's office for being progressive and working with us on smart justice opportunities, along with the Franklin County Office of Justice Policy Programs, Director Pride, Melissa Pearson, and their folks. The Franklin County Job and Family Services mobile team, our Mary Haven Engagement Center, Street Outreach team, Mid-Ohio Food Bank and their benefits team. We're actually a rolling soup kitchen now because of Mid-Ohio Food Bank. The Columbus Veterans Administration Hospital, the County Veteran Services Administration, SARNCO, Dr. Kvitko, just to name a few. And Dr. Kvitko, you may recognize him from his show on Sunny 95, and you wonder, what does a dentist have to do with unsheltered homelessness? Well, everybody's path to housing and wellness is different. And let me tell you about my friend Bryant, who's let me talk about him today. Our friend Bryant came to one of our pop-up events on High Street. He was on a bus and he heard, hey, you can get a free burger and a haircut and hang out with some people over in the short north. So he hopped on the bus and he came over and he had a great time. And we did a follow-up call. And Bryant said, yeah, you can help me with getting a pair of dentures. So we paired him up with a peer supporter and brought him to Primary One Health, who fitted him for a new pair of dentures, was able to get the authorization from his Medicaid, and we were able to show him, we can actually help you. There's been people that have said, we're going to meet you where you are. But we were able to actually do that with Bryant. We then had our peer supporter accompany him to a follow-up appointment at Primary One Health to get primary care, where he revealed that he has a chronic health condition that he hadn't been receiving the medications for, life-saving medications for over 5 years. We were able to get him that care through OSU, and that care led to us working with another organization to get him housing. And it all started with a pair of dentures. It really all started with hamburgers and haircuts. So these kinds of capacity building grants can do much more than just give us an extra few $1,000s for the next year or two. They can help us be creative and meet the needs in the community that aren't being met, that are being identified through these great grants. So I want to again thank the mayor, go Quakers, and city council, and thank you all very much for being here and for doing what you do every day to make Columbus a great city.